What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Spiggs Gaming, and today I'm going to be reacting to another Halo theory explained or something, also from Hidden Xperia. A link to his channel down below for you guys. I'm really enjoying these because I'm getting a lot of insight into the Halo universe that I never knew before. And I consider myself to be a pretty big Halo nerd, and also I don't think I am. I mean, I play the games and I've watched almost all of the movies. I don't know. So I'm going to be reacting to a video that is how the Arbiter influenced the events of Halo Combat Evolved and sparked the downfall of the Covenant. So that is very, very, very interesting. I am very excited to watch this because it sounds like it could be very interesting, because obviously we didn't see the Arbiter until it was in Halo 2 when he was branded a traitor and stuff like that. But then he was bumped up to rank of Arbiter. We all know his story. So this should be very interesting. So let's go do it.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's your boy, first time clickbait offender here, back again with the first of hopefully many to come Halo Combat Evolved lore videos. So to celebrate the relaunch, or alternatively, the port of a 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 third-person game of a Mac RTS game, I thought we'd combine this renewed Combat Evolved hype with one of the best characters in Halo history, the Arbiter.
The Arbiter.
What did he see during the game, and more importantly, how did he influence the events of the war on Alpha Halo? So, given that Halo 2 is next on the MCC release list, I figured that now was a better time than ever to cover how he ended up on trial before the Hierarchs, the Counselors, and the entire damn Covenant for the worst crime imaginable.
Yep.
Failure to protect one of the sacred rings. So, his involvement with Alpha Halo actually begins before the Halo was even discovered. So, in the later years of the war, Arbiter, or as he was technically known then, Belvadamy, was the supreme commander of the Fleet of Particular Justice, a war fleet comprised of roughly 60 ships, an armada he led with honor and distinction. Prior to the discovery and battle of Reach, his fleet was responsible for the death of over 1 billion humans, the glassing of 6 colony worlds, and the destruction of 123 UNSC ships across the galaxy.
Dang.
Such a credible threat to humanity, in fact, that he was designated a priority target by ONI, who conducted multiple failed assassination attempts on him, leading to only the death of many of their own operatives and the continued survival of the officers most wanted.
Dang.
However, the Covenant's discovery and subsequent invasion of Reach would spark the beginning of the end of Thel's career. He led his fleet to Reach as a part of the primary invasion force, not to be mistaken for the initial smaller fleet, which means that he shows up at the planet during this iconic scene.
Slip space rupture detected.
Gamma station control, reading multiple pings below the orbital
Slip
disintegrator.
space rupture detected.
Yeah, we're picking up anomalies too. Are you
Slip
reading it?
space rupture
Multiple
detected.
covenant signatures
So he showed up during this part.
everywhere. In the athletic, the whole damn covenant
Slip
ring.
space rupture detected.
Dang.
As he and the other fleets put the final nail in the coffin of Reach with their glassing beams, a single human ship was detected leaving the planet, and Thel quickly followed with all the ships left in his command. They tagged on to the Pillar of Autumn's destination course.
Pillar of Autumn.
After almost 3 weeks of following them through space, yes, there was a 3-week gap between Halo Reach and Halo CE, they arrived at Alpha Halo.
Dang.
The first Halo ring ever discovered by the Covenant, and the finest holy artifact their religion had ever bore witness to. Thel, keeping a level head and not becoming blinded, paralyzed, nor dumbstruck by the majesty of the Halo ring, immediately made contact with the Prophet of Stewardship, the highest-ranking political figure within the entire Fleet of Particular Justice, who was stationed on board the DDS-class cruiser Ascendant Justice. Given the caliber of artifact that they just stumbled upon, consultation with the High Prophet was absolutely necessary. But the Prophet didn't just confirm this ring as a creation of their gods. He also tried to enact the reclamation procedure, which would mark the mission as not just a religious matter, but would also require Thel to relinquish command of the mission to the Holy Prophet. And
Dang.
this posed a problem. The entire mission to seek and destroy the fleeing human ship was Fell's idea, and being the proud, decorated commander that he was reluctant to cede control of not just the mission, but also his entire fleet to this prophet. In light of Fell's stubbornness, attempts were made to contact High Charity and have somebody there settle the dispute, but no contact was able to be made. This lack of resolution led to a constant power struggle between the two for the duration of the war on Alpha Halo, and in fact could even be cited as not only a reason for the Covenant's defeat and the destruction of the Sacred Ring, but also, quite possibly, the downfall of the entire Covenant. The first disagreement between Fell and the Prophet was arguably the gravest of all. As the autumn drifted towards Alpha Halo, shipmasters within the fleet ordered their crew to fire upon the human ship with their plasma torpedoes. But the Prophet stopped them, claiming that a stray missile could damage the ring. Now, Fell eventually overrode this order.
Dang.
And in retaliation, the Prophet ordered the boarding of the ship. However, the boarding crews weren't anywhere near as effective as they needed to be, and by the time the torpedoes were fired, it was too late. The autumn had crash-landed on the ring. From here on out, things would only get worse. The Prophet of Stewardship ended up overseeing the entire skirmish on the Halo, continuing to subvert Fell and make decisions that would lead to their downfall. He was the only member of the Council of Masters to deny Zuka Zamami's request to hunt down the demon, the Master Chief. Prior to that, he'd ordered 2 ships, the Undiminished Anteliki and the Purity of Spirit, to conduct a close-range survey of the Halo, both of which would ultimately succumb to the Flood as a result of this survey. And then, later on, during the war, he sent an expeditionary force led by Loka Bandoli and Caesar Refume to a gas mine orbiting Threshold.
Yeah.
An act that Fell tried to veto, believing that all the Covenant's forces should be focused on the humans on the ring as opposed to investigating the nearby planet. Now, if the name Caesar Refume rings a bell, that's because it should do. That is the heretic leader, so
Yeah.
clearly the Prophet's plan ended up being yet another blunder. But it only gets worse from there.
Oh, dang.
This Prophet was in fact the one who ordered multiple squads to go and uncover a secret weapons cache, which, as we know, turned out to be the Flood. And when the outbreak had begun, by his hand, he, instead of blaming himself and taking the blame on himself, had an elite noble, Soho Rolami, another member of the Council of Masters, executed. If there's one thing all prophets are exceptional at, it's shifting the blame. By now,
Yeah.
it was beyond evident to Fell that the Prophet was utterly incompetent and by no means even remotely fit to oversee the war effort, so plans to usurp him were kicked into action. Fell tried to do this peacefully at first, sending a single infantry unit to the Ascendant Justice to bring the Prophet in, but their ship was destroyed on approach. After being threatened with severe punishments should he attempt to affront his leadership again, Fell decided that enough was finally enough. The only way this Prophet was being relieved from his post was with force, but as a strike team was being assembled to do so, an emergency beacon on the Infinite Succor, one of the fleet's supply ships, was activated. Unsure as to what was going down on the ship, he assembled yet another team, this one led by Special Operations Commando Artas Vadami, to investigate and rescue the Prophet stationed on board.
I've heard that name
2 hours
before.
later, as Fell was getting ready to leave to go to the Ascendant Justice with his team, Artas Vadami returned, alone. The Flood had been unleashed, and the outbreak on the Halo was out of control. What was once set to be a commanding victory for Fell, with the discovery of one of the 7 sacred rings to boot, was now his worst nightmare, and things would only get worse. He immediately enacted emergency containment procedures, ordering his ship still in orbit to shoot down any vessel returning from the ring that failed to return a clean bioscan. With how extremely virulent the Flood appeared to be, he could not risk a single spore reaching the remainder of his fleet.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, knowing he was running out of time to act, he took his task force to the Ascendant Justice, but the Prophet of Stewardship was nowhere to be found. It turned out that he departed for the Truth and Reconciliation, located in the heart of the outbreak. And yet, it was no matter to Fell. The crew of the Justice instantly recognized him as their supreme commander, clearly tired of the Prophet's incompetent leadership. And then, down on the Halo, it It turned out the Prophet had been captured by a group of ODSTs and crewmen from the Autumn, who had attempted to raid the Truth and Wreck in a bet to use it to escape this hellscape of a ring. He'd sent multiple emergency rescue requests to Thel, begging for his assistance, all of which Thel had very swiftly denied, leaving the Prophet of Stewardship to his fate on the ring. However, this string of distractions had allowed Chief and Cortana to go relatively unnoticed and access the Autumn's fusion reactors, overload them, and begin the destruction of the Halo. Knowing that the clock was ticking, Thel ordered the remainder of his fleet to retreat to the other side of Threshold to avoid the blast and debris from the Halo. As they watched this artifact of extreme holiness shatter to pieces, all the holy artifacts and knowledge on board it be ejected into the black of space, Thel sat there, knowing his honor had shared a similar fate.
Yep.
He ordered his fleet to retreat, to try and, at the very least, protect what remained of his men from any flood that may have survived, and begun his shameful return to High Charity.
Dang.
The story doesn't end there.
Seriously.
One final act of just adding insult to injury. Chief, Johnson, and some of the other human survivors captured the Ascendant Justice and then used it in Operation First Strike, destroying one of the biggest Covenant refit and repair stations in the entire Armada and marking one of the most significant defeats for the Covenant as a whole in the entire war. And so, in the aftermath of the war on Alpha Halo, the Covenant suffered heavy losses both at the Ring and also elsewhere in the galaxy as a consequence of what had happened at the Ring. Their enemies learned invaluable information, a prophet was killed, a sacred ring was destroyed, and to top it all off, a group of Covenant were left on the gas mine, forgotten about by Thel and his crew, where they watched the destruction of Alpha Halo and eventually became heretics. And so, that's where the Arbiter was during Halo CE, and also how he influenced the events of the game. Not only is it so cool knowing that he was at the Halo at the same time as Chief, like the entire time.
That's cool.
It also adds so much more context to both his trial at the start of Halo 2, although, to be fair, I would argue that 99% of the things that he was accused of were undoubtedly the Prophet's fault, and also his interactions with the heretic leader.
Yeah.
I have an entire video planned on Caesar Refame and his little group of heretics for when Halo 2 releases on MCC PC, but for now, all I'll say is that it's so damn cool knowing that Caesar, the heretic leader, once served in the Arbiter's fleet, and he only became a heretic pretty much because the Arbiter forgot about him.
Oh my gosh. So, like, that is pretty insane. I didn't think that the Arbiter or Val was there at Alpha Halo during Combat Evolved, but that's insane that he was there, but then, like, everything that he did, every single thing that he did, just influenced the events of Halo 2 and why he was branded traitor, and then him becoming the Arbiter, and then, then the events of Halo 3. Like, everything that he did in Halo Combat Evolved just made everything in Halo 2 and on just, like, that much better. If he didn't do that, if he hadn't have done that, then, he wouldn't have been in that position in Halo 2, and that is insane that he was there, and also that heretics, like, that it is insane that, like, they became that only because that the Arbiter forgot them, and I feel like that his faith and wanting to please the prophets blinded him even before he became the Arbiter, even before he was, like, branded a traitor, during the Alpha Halo days, and during all of that, like, even every step that he took, it was blinded by his faith and his want and need to do well by the prophets. Like, we all knew that the prophets were just jerks, but it is really cool that no matter what, I find it really cool that Arbiter was there in Halo Combat Evolved. That is really cool. And that he was, like, part of the Fall of Reach. That is sad. I'm mad now. But that is still so cool. I love it. I love finding new insight into the Halo universe. It is so fun. Okay, everybody, that is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, then be sure to smash the like button because it'll help out the channel tremendously. Comment down below about what your thoughts are of, like, this little insight into the Arbiter, Val, whatever. It is really cool. I want to do more reactions with this because I'm loving these tidbits and like this lore. It is so fun. I love it. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever I post videos so you do not miss me reacting anymore, because I feel like I'm going to be doing these a lot more here in the near future. And I will be playing more Middle-earth: Shadow of War starting Monday. I needed a break. I needed a break from that because I was getting really, really mad with the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys Monday with the new video. Bye, everybody.